just look around. You got the mountains, you got the most beautiful city in the whole entire country. The university is absolutely, looks like it's out of a storybook. It's just beautiful. People are incredibly genuine and extremely nice. It's just a place that obviously I'd want my kids to go to school. And it sells itself. You don't have to sell anything about this place. You just got to get them here. You know, the old field of dreams. Yeah. Build it and they will come. It's already built.
I don't believe there are good people that pull for Georgia. I think they're all terrible, ugly, disgusting human beings. I think it's just that no, there are no good Georgia fans, Eric. There are none.
I don't think anybody, including our fan base, are afraid to be the villains. So I think that I think that's what makes this place special, is that starting with our coaching staff and our players, we enjoy getting in a fight, and we enjoy the close games, and we enjoy the competition.
Yeah, I didn't sign any mustard bottles or golf balls. Maybe wish I had a golf ball that night, you know what I mean? But I'm only kidding. All right.
Pardon me and my tone. You can't step to my throne. They ain't working like me. I did this on my own. You asking where we been, huh? I don't know where to begin, huh? All this dirt on my skin. I just came here to win. I'm more than a man, I'm a monster. Somebody call the pastor, doctor. I got a 6 cents for imposters. So now I'm coming for the whole roster. It's not a game, why you playing with me? You could double back, lose track, try and hang with me. It must be in my veins, something you can't tame, cause I break the chains. Can't control me. I got the power, I got the keys, cause I break the chains. They try to hold me, I'ma push back. Just wait and you'll see. Please excuse me, your honor, but you can't hold me no longer. Can't you feel the vibrations? I broke out and left traces. Go ahead, try to catch me if you can, man. You'll be looking all night, I'm a Sandman. New York, London to Japan. I'ma show the whole world who I am. Boom, boom. Major look, huh? Yeah, this one is for the books. All these chances I took still. I move straight on these rooks now.
Welcome to the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. Excited to come hang out on the Talkin VAWLS Network live with you guys. Look, right out of the gate, you guys got to do me a favor. You know the deal by now. You've been here long enough. I mean, you guys are sneaking in the back door. Nobody's even paid an entry fee yet. I'm waiting on somebody to pay an entry fee. You're so comfortable. You just sneak into my basement. You sneak into my office. The last time I looked, Wayne Starnes was behind me playing NBA Jam, and that's fine. We're family. We're family. But I need a favor, because tonight is not about the Talkin VAWLS Network. It is about building Tennessee athletics into a juggernaut and doing that through NIL. So what I need you guys to do, this is like a telethon. This is like an old school telethon. We're going to try to raise some money for Spyre Sports Group. Why would we do that? Because we're all diehard, passionate, psychotic Tennessee fans. So share this thing out. Share the link out. Put it on Facebook. Put it on Instagram. Put it on Twitter. Call up your Uncle Harry and let him know Talkin VAWLS is live and they're going one-on-one with Spyre Sports Group. It's going to be a fun stream. You can also hit that thumbs up down below. That is quick, free, and easy. We would greatly appreciate it. Looking over here on my phone, because StreamYard for some reason doesn't like to recognize you guys. The members of the channel, Eric B. Jones, member for 23 months at the gold tier. That's almost 2 years. Eric says, let's go Big Orange. Mark Wilson, 2, member for 21 months at Talkin VAWLS Elite. That ain't cheap. Says go Big Orange. I love it. Thank you guys. I love the members of the channel. You guys, you know the deal by now. You keep the lights on around here. Right out of the gate, Wayne Starnes for 5. Thank you for the super chat. He doesn't say anything. He says, here's my entry fee, Boogie. I didn't sneak in. I'm not playing NBA Jam for free. Here is $5. Thank you so much, Wayne. Appreciate that. Angry Titan for 5 says, here's the door fee. That's what I like. The entry fee around here. That's how I can have all these fancy bells and whistles and lights. So thank you for the super chat. Let's see who else we got hanging out. Angry Titan was here earlier and said shared. Appreciate that. Sam Hyatt in the house says GBO. What's up, Sam? Good to see you in the chat. Noah James is here. Matt Zimmerman in the house says go Big Orange. Dropping those custom Talkin VAWLS emojis. Sammy P is here, says I start my paper and this notification pops up. I guess I'm taking a 0. Sammy P, that's on you because I've been announcing this stream for about 2 weeks now. Matt Dumitz in the house says go Big Orange. What's up, Matt? Good to see you. Brad is here, says GBO. Ned is in the house. GBO, what's up, guys? Come on in. Like I said, smash the thumbs up. Share this thing out. Let's grow the chat. Let's have a fun night talking NIL. All things NIL with Spyre Sports tonight. Going to be a good stream. You guys got to bring the fire. Bring the hard-hitting questions because they said we're going to answer them all, Boogie. We'll answer anything and everything you guys throw at us. So we're going to get Brandon Spurlock on here in just a few moments. He's going to be in around 7:15 or so, and he's going to answer your hard-hitting questions. Craig J's in the chat says, what's up, Boogie? What's up, buddy? Good to see you in the chat. Crystal Free is here. Kenny Davis says, excited for this. You guys got to share it out. Share it out. Let somebody know we're live. It's the off season, man. It's the off season and views are always down. And I don't know why the baseball team is absolutely dominating. It's 21-1 in the top of the 6th. What else are you going to do tonight? Come hang out with Boogie. Come hang out with Spyre Sports. Let's talk some NIL. Let's take a look at this article. This is how I wanted to open the show tonight because Spyre Sports Group Volunteer Club facilitates $13.5 million in NIL deals. Some of you guys in the chat, some of you guys are going to catch this on the replay too. That's the way things work around here. It is what it is. It's all good. You can watch live. You can watch after the fact. There's no problem with that. But some of you guys may say, Boogie, why are you making such a big deal out of NIL? You know, we talk about recruiting, right? And every time a recruit goes somewhere else, it's always the same old song and dance. It's always the same spin on Facebook, on Twitter, wherever. On the message boards, didn't pay them enough money, got outbid. So let's fix that. If that's truly what's happening, let's fix that. But Spyre Sports Group, $13.5 million in NIL deals. This is an article from on3.com. Says here the first 20 months of the NCAA's name, image, and likeness era, Tennessee has become a hub of economic potential for college athletes. Let's blast that out for all the class of 24, 25, and moving forward. It says, while there is not an agreed-upon definition of NIL collective, Spyre Sports Group has set an example for what an efficient one looks like. The sports marketing agency founded by, and I always botch Hunter's name. I feel like I should just call him on a first-name basis. We'll just say Hunter and James Clausen manages the volunteer club, which facilitates NIL deals for a number of prominent Tennessee athletic programs, including football, basketball, and baseball. And, you know, it talks about being ahead of the game. And that's huge. To me, I look back to when James Clausen, the last time he was on this channel, that was right after NIL got launched. We had no idea what NIL would even look like. We didn't know. And James said, I'll come on. We'll talk about it. We'll get into it. It was a great stream. And now things have changed. Things have adapted here as we move into the NIL era. Wayne in the chat, we need 20 million. Let's get more. That's the whole point of this stream. That's why I keep harping on sharing it, letting people know about this stream. And I know a lot of people are going to watch it after the fact, and that's good too. We will promote the piss out of it after the fact as well. So don't you worry. We will I feel like it's a responsibility as having this platform of 20,000 subscribers to put an eye on NIL and what Spyre Sports Group is doing. Dylan Plowman for 5. Thank you for the super chat. Vols Union do. I like it, Dylan. I like it. I appreciate the super chat. Thank you for the support of the channel, my man. We got another super chat coming in here. Bleed Orange, 31 for $10. That ain't cheap. Thank you, Bleed Orange. What's up, Boogie? Finally, let's talk NIL and how Vol Nation can play a part. We can help build the programs. GBO, that's the thing, man. It's in our hands. We are in control. We have the power. And I feel like when this thing first launched, maybe I got a little cocky. Maybe I got a little arrogant. And I said, our pockets are deep. We are about to take this thing over. But we're going to get into it. Stay tuned. We're going to get into it. We're going to get into what upsets Boogie. But thank you, Bleed Orange, for the $10. I appreciate that. Thank you for the tip. Goes on to say, last weekend, the Volunteer Club achieved its goal of active members in all 50 states. Keep that in mind. Don't forget that here in just a little bit when we bring Brandon on. All 50 states are represented in the volunteer club all across America. And that goes back to why I was so arrogant and cocky about it. We got the biggest fan base in the country all across the United States, Hawaii, Alaska. It's all covered now with the volunteer club. You can't go on vacation. You can't go on a cruise. You can't go to Hawaii. You can't go to Alaska without somebody saying go Vols when you're wearing orange. That's just the way it is. So we've got to continue to build this thing. I feel like the common fan, and not even a common fan, I feel like our group here is not common fans. We are psychopaths. We are obsessed. We are the diehards here. And I feel like even some of our fan base doesn't necessarily grasp what NIL is, what Spyre Sports Group is. That's what this stream is to educate. Brad for 5, thank you for the super chat, says door fee, GBO. Thank you, Brad. Appreciate that tip, buddy. Again, it goes on to talk about how all 50 states are covered. It says the club currently has 2,316 subscribers who donate on a monthly basis. Memberships range from $5 to $500 per month. That's my focus point tonight. 50 states are covered. The volunteer club only has 2. We have 20,000 subscribers. Listening to this idiot sit in his basement and yell in a microphone. That's because we are diehard and passionate. We got to get that number way above 2,300. That's no disrespect to what those guys are building at Spyre Sports Group. That's an embarrassment, and that's not their fault. That goes on people like me, people that need to help spread the word. We got to get that number up above 2,300. And just for you guys in the chat, the comment that's pinned at the top is a link to where you can become a member of the volunteer club. That's going to be there all night long. Make sure you guys go check it out. Goes on to say the sports marketing agency founded by Hunter, I'm not going to pronounce his last name, and James Clausen manages the volunteer club, which facilitates NIL deals for a number of prominent Tennessee athletic programs, again, including football, basketball, and baseball. They hit their goal of 50 states. It says since July of 2021, the collective has worked with more than 200 Tennessee athletes across 11 programs, hitting $13.5 million in NIL deals. The 8-figure number comes from an endorsement deal Spyre has facilitated along with the volunteer club athlete partnership program. Says it's an exciting day for Spyre Sports and the University of Tennessee as we are pleased to announce the volunteer club has officially hit members in all 50 states. So again, I wanted to spotlight that. That was a big goal. That was a big thing for Spyre Sports to hit all 50 states. But again, I want to go back and focus on that number, where their memberships are at. Since we've started this stream, a couple of you guys, and I appreciate it. I could not do this full time if it wasn't for you guys dropping the $5 super chats, $10 super chats, becoming members of the channel. I couldn't do it without you guys, but it's the same thing. $5 a month. You can become a member of the volunteer club, and we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it. Like I said, guys, smash the thumbs up, share this thing out. We're about to bring Brandon on here in just a moment, and you guys can fire away. The floor is going to be yours. Ask the hard-hitting questions. Ask anything and everything you want to ask, because he said, I'll answer it all, Boogie. No holds barred. I'm going to update the leaderboard real quick. We got Bleed Orange 31. I got to get him on the leaderboard down here. You guys contribute to what I'm trying to do around here, and I appreciate it. So we're going to go Bleed Orange 31, $9.99 super chat. We'll scroll that across the bottom. We like to scroll the leaderboard across the bottom. John London for 5. Thank you for the super chat. Tennessee is ahead of the curve on NIL. It is a huge advantage. Now we need to keep it up on the field, and all will fall in line. And, that's part of it too. That's something I talk about when I make recruiting videos, is the fact that it's not just about NIL. And sometimes when there's a guy like Carnell Tate, right, or Francis Mauigoa, and that's a name, those are a couple of names I'm going to throw out there here in just a few minutes when we get Brandon on the show. They go elsewhere. They go to Miami. They go to Ohio State, whatever. And immediately the fan base fires off. Well, it's NIL. Got outbid. It's not always just NIL. Sometimes it's the product on the field. Sometimes it's the system. Sometimes it's the relationships. There are a lot of different things that go into recruiting high school kids, but NIL is definitely a factor. And if Brandon's ready, he's in the back room. He's sitting back, chilling, got his camera off. We're going to get him on here. We're going to have a good time. Like I said, guys, fire away. What's up, Brandon? Welcome to the show, buddy.
Coming in hot, man. You're bringing the energy today.
That's what I try to do, man. But it's you drink a little Buffalo Trace, you get fired up and have a good time. I appreciate you taking time tonight. I know you were at the baseball game. Saw a lot of fireworks, I would assume, before you jumped on here.
Yeah, I got to stop counting there. We had an event tonight, so I'm a little overdressed for the baseball game and maybe overdressed for the show. But, we can take the coat off if we need to. You're looking good. Is that your game room? What's going on behind you?
I'm 41 years old, but you know, when you get to a certain point in life and you can buy things you wanted when you were a kid, that's what defines success, right? So 13-year-old Boogie would have loved to have NBA Jam in his room, but now as a grown adult, I've got it.
So you're not at an arcade. You're like at your house.
This is where the magic happens. They call it the boom boom room. See right here, set the 4 for 5. Thank you for the super chat. It says boom boom room entry fee. Who's playing tonight? Appreciate that.
You know what's funny is I'm actually at our office right now, and we actually call this room that I'm in the boom boom room. So that's just, I mean, that's amazing.
I didn't start that. They started it, and it's fine. They said entry fees. I'll take it. If they want to throw money at me, that's great. Now we want them to throw money at you guys. Before we really get into NIL, you know, I was talking to James. We were texting back and forth, and he said, "Hey, do you care if Brandon comes on?" I'm like, "Absolutely, man. Come on. Let's hang out. Let's talk NIL. Let's do a telethon for Spyre Sports and put an eye on you guys." But he said that you worked at Tennessee prior to Spyre Sports. What was your job there? What did you do at the University of Tennessee before making that transition to Spyre Sports Group?
Yeah, I was at Tennessee for just about 7 years. I mean, was hired under Dave Hart, so with 4 athletic directors in 6 or 7 years is not exactly how you draw it up. But I think we're on to better days here under Danny White's leadership. But I was at Tennessee for those years, and then Boston College before that, and then Western Kentucky before that, and then, was at Tennessee before that in grad school and working in the department, kind of background in football operations and then fundraising. So, my last stop at Tennessee was major gift fundraising. So primarily talking to people to raise funds for facilities and scholarship needs, all before this kind of NIL world evolved.
And what would you say about Danny White? Because when you talk about the world of fundraising, that's something Danny White, a lot of people say is his specialty. And, you talked about the days under Dave Hart. I think Tennessee's got good leadership. Feels like the leadership is aligned. But when you look at it now from a different perspective at Spyre Sports Group, but you look at what Danny White's doing, and it's got to be a juggling act when you're trying to raise funds as an athletic director for the university, but also NIL is so important. That's a balancing act, right?
Yeah, I think I could take a positive or many positives from any athletic director I've worked for, at any school. Danny White, I worked with for a year. And I'd say, Danny had to come in and, didn't have to, but he did. He made a lot of hard decisions and continues to make a lot of hard decisions. Changes that probably needed to be made at Tennessee to move Tennessee forward. It's a tough place when you rely on your traditions to carry you, but also sometimes your traditions can be a hindrance sometimes, whether that's internal operations or just, what the band's doing at halftime, right? We all love the things that we grew up with and our grandfather grew up with and everything, but sometimes you gotta push the envelope a little bit and change. And I think Denny's come in and made a lot of those changes. And I witnessed it firsthand, while I was there in the department before I joined the team here, last April. And I think, fundraising, I can't imagine, being an athletic director right now, balancing everything you have to balance internally. And then also this changing world of NIL, is just another layer, and we're solely focused on NIL, right? Like NEAD is focused on the other 117,000 things that they're dealing with, plus now NIL. And so, we've got me.
You came back. You're good.
Okay.
You're good.
We've got to be an advocate for what we're doing all the time with Tennessee, right? And make sure we're, assuming a leadership role, whether it's with Danny or with, his deputies over there, of kind of, being boots on the ground in this NIL space and us talking, I think some of the NCAA legislation that changed last October, whatever it was, it all kind of runs together here, but, allowed us to better communicate on things that are going on. So that's helpful. But we can't wait on, our athletic director. We try to lead as best we can and try to show, what we're up against and what we're facing and allow them to make decisions that are beneficial for the school that we all love, Tennessee. Right.
Yeah. So like the legislation you're talking about, it goes back to when NIL was first a thing, it was technically illegal to talk for you guys to communicate with the head coach. Right. But was that a Tennessee state law? Or is that pretty much across the board now that it is legal for Spyre Sports to communicate with Josh Heupel and the coaching staff?
Yeah, and we don't have to, we don't have to talk with Heupel. He's busy being the head coach, right? That hasn't changed. So, we communicate. We're at events. We can be at events. He can promote us and things like that. But he's got head coach stuff to worry about, and this is obviously a big part of that. But he's got a hierarchy there, and we've got people that we can communicate through, and make sure we're on the same page about things for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because some of the listeners sent some questions to me to ask. They're going to drop super chats to ask questions, but I'm going to get ahead of myself because it's just kind of the way it's going. But when you say, Josh Heupel's got so much that he's dealing with, and really, you got early signing day now. That's kind of changed the game. I feel like these guys never at this point have a day off. They're recruiting high school kids. They're recruiting the portal. They're recruiting their own team, right? Because you've got guys that are always going to flirt with the portal. So how much communication is there with you guys and with Josh Heupel when it comes to, okay, we've got said 4-star running back. Is he a priority? You know what I mean? Like, how much communication is there as far as who you guys target? Because I kind of preach, and maybe this is a different narrative. This is what I talk about when it comes to recruiting. You have to prioritize. We have X amount of money. And when you're talking NIL, you got to be able to protect the quarterback. You got to be able to get after the quarterback, and you have to have a quarterback. So how much communication goes on there with what you guys are doing versus what Josh Heupel wants as far as a recruiting board, I guess?
I mean, I'm not here to speak for Josh Heupel. We communicate, every day, right? Not with Josh Heupel, but with, football, with Tennessee athletics, some combination, and so, obviously there's strict rules with the NCAA in terms of who can talk about what and when and all that, whether it's a recruit or transfer portal or a current roster athlete. So, we've consulted with professional teams. And then obviously we're in like kind of the marketing world as well. So, understanding like, as best we can, like, it's funny because we don't see ourselves as experts, but, here we are, we do feel like we've been out in front on a lot of things and we're trying to stay ahead. Right. And so we've talked to professional teams about how they value players, and that whole like Moneyball concept, right. Which is, really, obviously it's present in pro sports. It exists in college sports too, but it's catching up, right? We're behind in terms of pro sports. So trying to be deliberate, that's us, we're trying to be deliberate about how we value players and what we think we can do in terms of, recouping a value on a player and what we're going to offer, on an NIL deal. We do it a lot like, maybe like the music industry where we're forwarding a lot of support to athletes, current athletes, right? And we've got to decide where we can make that up and what makes sense. And so the communication is key, not to understand like where that valuation is. And this is all going to change over time, probably, right? And what that looks like is to be seen. But, we do have to understand, and to put it, simply, like, any of us that are diehards, like everybody on this show, you can go find out what the priorities are real quick. So, we don't have to necessarily talk to Heupel about that, but we're in communication with Tennessee as we're allowed to be, especially since October, about where the priorities are for sure. And then we have to come in and kind of determine valuations as best we can. And that's that's an imperfect science for sure.
Now, these guys in the chat hanging out, we got over 100 people watching live. Appreciate you guys tuning in on this Wednesday night. A lot of people are going to catch the replay as well. But these guys in the live chat, they know how to get answers. They know, hey, I want something answered. You throw money at the screen. John London with a $5 super chat says Tennessee is ahead of the curve on NIL. It is a huge advantage. Now we need to keep it up on the field and all will fall in line. I think I got that one earlier. Here's a question directly for you. John London for another 5. Brandon, how do you see the NIL field changing, and what do you see for it in the future? Do you see anything changing overall with it not being new? Take that how you will and kind of answer that.
Yeah, I think that's what we're all trying to figure out. There's a lot to that question there. I'm trying to break it down. I think, we're trying to stay ahead as best we can. We pretty much, we operate really 4 different companies under the Spyre umbrella right now. And we're always looking at ways to, expand that and on a, with the idea in mind that we've got to find sustainability, right? So we're a startup company. We're able to be nimble. We're chasing a lot of things. We're trying to find the things that are profitable and the things that are going to, provide sustainability. Right. And so I think the fact of the matter is that everybody knows is like, this is going to change, and is Congress going to get involved? I mean, James talked about that last year, when he talked to you, what is it going to look like with the college football playoff coming on? Like all these things are spinning. And I just want to say, I think our belief, I know our belief is that, we're finding ourselves, in a position where we want to be advocates for the athletes, right? And so, until this gets to a point where it's a truly efficient free market, we're going to have problems. You're going to have, college has, there's been rampant, issues with college athletics, especially football, over the centuries, right? And so, what I'm talking about is, here we are, basically creating a market for generating revenue to pay these players. And a lot of times the players get confused too, because they see 100,000 people in the stadium. This is not anything new, right? This goes back to the Fab Five, and just recently as Shabazz Napier in 2014 talking about going to bed hungry, and then all of a sudden you have different meal stipends that come along for players. Ed O'Bannon's playing a video game and he sees himself, and that's how we get here, right? The Alston case, all these things that have been reactionary measures by the NCAA. And, we're sitting here and we're trying to say, like, we battle with players a lot because a lot of times they think they're underpaid. And a lot of times we agree with them. If you base their value on, the revenue generated from 100,000 seat stadium over 7-8 games, and then also the television revenue, from the SEC network and CBS and things like that, you can make an argument that everybody's underpaid, right? Because we're not paying them with those dollars, right? We're paying them with dollars that we can generate through our volunteer club, through Volunteer Legacy. And so that's a long-winded answer to say we're absolutely thinking about what the future looks like. And, we want to be advocates for our players first and foremost. And obviously our company, like, we want to do well, be successful, and do well for ourselves and our families. But, it's all started with Tennessee, and trying to, if we do what's right for Tennessee, and more specifically the players, the athletes at Tennessee, and let that kind of carry the torch for what the future holds. Another way to say that is, like, I don't know that we're waiting for that future to come. We're trying to figure out and continue to be leaders that bring about that change and kind of have a hand in molding what it is.
Do you think, you mentioned TV revenue, do you think that's coming next, that the players are going to definitely get a cut of that? And that helps with what you're saying there, that the player feels undervalued. Well, if that player can be making a little bit of NIL money, but then also be getting a cut of TV revenue, but do you think that's around the corner? It just seems to me
it's got to be. I mean, it's all you just watch the court cases they're coming about, and this has gone as high as the Supreme Court, right? And the Supreme Court's been pretty clear with a 9-0 vote, when NIL came to be, about, this is the violation of antitrust laws and the Sherman Act and things like that. Right now what we're watching is the Johnson versus NCAA case, which is based around a Villanova athlete, and that's the one where they're, fighting for kind of a minimum wage and, athletes being employees. I'm not sure if that's the right thing, or if it's more of the College Athlete Protection Act that's going on out in California, where they're talking about athletes in California, getting 50% of the revenues generated by their sport. Right. And then, there's another one out there called House versus NCAA. That's more kind of the heavyweight, I think, of the bunch, is like goes all the way in terms of athletes being compensated based on those revenues you talked about. So, as someone who's studied economics myself, and as you just look at it and it's like, look, we're going to have problems until we get all the way to a free market. Whether you or I or anybody else believes that's right or wrong, that doesn't matter. It's just, college athletics, college football in particular, basketball, it's an inefficient market, right? And the labor force, if you want to call it that, is not being compensated. And so the dollars are directed other places. And look, I spent, a lot of my career raising funds, for those facilities and things like that. And that's at long term, in addition to the day-to-day of what we've got to do in the landscape as we exist right now,
Yeah. Nugs, thank you for the $2. You dropped that right after I spun the question going that direction. Still over 105 people watching live. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you do smash the thumbs up, share it out. I think this is a very important stream that we get more eyes on. So blast it out. We got a couple of more super chats. I'm trying to go into like marketing mode and start blasting out the volunteer club. We're going to get into it, but the listeners have questions. Nugs for 10. Thank you for the super chat. Says just joined the Vol Club. That's what it's all about, guys. And there is a
Who
link.
did that? Nugs.
Crazy. He used to be Crazy Nugs, and then he shortened his name to Nugs. Maybe he's not as crazy as he used to be, guys. There is a link pinned at the top of the live chat where you can join the volunteer club. You can get involved in the NIL game with Spyre Sports Group. So make sure you go check that out. We're going to be talking about some of the perks and benefits to that coming up in just a second. Nug says, my question is, did y'all get Hendon, the mustard deal, and how are these deals typically approached? And what's the wildest demand you've heard of? Also, let's rip on Florida's NIL. We don't have to rip on Florida's NIL, but you can answer the question there about Hendon and the mustard deal and the wildest demand. I think that's a good question. The wildest demand you've heard of.
Hold on. First, look, you might ask that question again because I got sidetracked because I appreciate Nug's support and obviously want to help support what you're doing, Boogie. But like, I get the emails right when somebody joins. Okay, so I'm not going to call out names or anything like that, but we can start this right now. So 7:16 p.m. somebody joined. I'm assuming that was Nugs. You know, anybody for the rest of this show that joins the Vol Club, we've got a baseball porch that we'd like to invite anybody to join us on. So we can do that as a little push, you know. So I'm looking at the clock here. So we'll count that one at 7:16. If we can tie it to your show, you know, we'd love to have people out on our porch and we'll talk about that. But just wanted to drop that in there. And then if we can tie that into what you're trying to do, let's do that too. So ask me again. You said Hendon Hooker.
Yeah. Did you got, how did y'all get the mustard deal with Hendon, and how are these deals typically approached? And then what's the wildest demand you heard of?
The wildest demand. I'm gonna have to think about that. You know, I'm on the money coming in side, right? Like the fundraising side, and some of our other guys are on the execution of the deals, you know, but we're all talking about those things. So you know, the mustard deal with Hendon was obviously, you know, stemming from that Ole Miss game, right? Which was, you know, by some was perceived as a negative, you know, and we spent a lot of time trying to, you know, spin negatives into positive, whether we want to or not. It's just where we found ourselves. Something we can talk about with our volunteer legacy that we just had a big launch event with tonight. But that Hendon deal was, you know, it's like years in the making, right? Because that Ole Miss game had happened, you know, the prior year. And then I think, quite frankly, you know, French's Mustard had gotten a lot of attention from that, you know, right, wrong, or indifferent. And so they were very proactive about wanting to do something. And so I think just us being nimble and being able to have that conversation and, you know, trying to push the envelope just enough, something that was viewed as kind of risque or again, negative, you know, just talking with them. And, you know, I really give them a lot of credit for wanting to partner. And then we found a way to make it cool. And we went through a lot of different renditions, and, you know, they sent that pair of shoes for Hendon to wear. And there were some other ideas that never saw the light of day, but that was a pretty cool situation. The most ridiculous, are you saying from like a business or from an athlete, or?
He just, either one. He didn't speculate or didn't specify which one.
Yeah,
I would go business if you got a good one. That's way more fun than ripping on an athlete.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. I'm trying to think about that. There's not as many of those. Everybody's pretty good. Let me think about that one for a little bit. It's gonna hit me because I don't want to just say something to say something. I'm gonna let that one swim around for a little bit, and let me come back to it. And I promise I'll come back to it.
That's good, because the chat's going nuts because you're talking about spinning a negative into a positive. See, when you see the little gimmicks there, for some reason, StreamYard, the software I use, won't put we have custom Talkin VAWLS emojis. So when you see mustard, we have a Talkin VAWLS mustard bottle. We have a Talkin VAWLS golf ball. Wayne Starnes in the chat points out Brandon needs a Talkin VAWLS mustard shirt. Yeah, see, we spin things. We turn negatives into positives around here as well. But Wayne drops a $20 super chat. That is very generous. Thank you, Wayne, for the tip. He says, how was hiring former players like Firking gain trust with current players on the roster and the incoming freshmen on how NIL works, and having that familiar face to go to when it comes to NIL. I saw James tweeting out about him earlier tonight. So I think he's a huge asset for you guys, right?
Yeah, was an athlete here, obviously having him in the locker room was helpful. But then also, with On3, and then, more importantly, or as important, he's on our board of directors for our volunteer legacy for our nonprofit side. And so, Grant's kind of touching a lot of things and fighting on many fronts for us. And this, make no mistake, I mean, this has been a fight, for a long time, and it will be for a long time. I think we're all poised for it. In terms of just positioning yourself, you're coming up against, a lot of traditional donors that have questions, when this became legal, everything they've been told for the last, 30 years or before that was illegal. Now all of a sudden certain things are legal. So trying to talk through that. And, when you talk about our membership numbers being at or below or a certain number, like we've had to fight for 2,300 members. Right. And we know that there's like an exponential element to it. And we're kind of really just getting rolling. And we think we can grow really fast from this point. And so having somebody like Grant is invaluable for sure on many, many fronts that he's helped us on. And, trying to do good work, by him and by other athletes. Right. And so everybody's value is in a different way. Obviously you can't be compensated for what you do on the field. And, obviously Grant didn't get to see the field a whole lot. We love him, but like Grant brought value. Right. And so, in some ways, your what you do on the field determines, if your social media following, blows up over a weekend because you scored 5 touchdowns against a rival, your marketing value just changed like overnight, right? Hello, Jalen Hyatt.
I was about to say, do you want me to say his name when you spin it like that?
Yeah, and going back to Jordan Beck, the Mike Honcho thing, that was one of the first things that we really did, and so like, we don't really know, but I think being nimble, and I'm getting off topic here. You started with Grant, but this is what it leads to, right? Is, the value is defined in many different ways. And so, the Mike Honcho thing, because we had executed a group licensing agreement, we had things in place, to be able to act on, a really cool moment where Tony Vitello got on the mic, during the game and brought that up, and we did it. And guess who it benefited most? It benefited Jordan Beck,
right?
Which is really cool, and that was like my first week on the job, and I was just like, holy shit, like this is really, really awesome, for lack of a better term. And then you get into Grant, like you get into somebody like Grant who, didn't hit a home run against anybody, but man, like, NIL can not only like benefit Grant, but like Grant can benefit NIL too. And I know he loves Tennessee and he loves what we're working on. So it's been awesome.
And I think even, talking about Grant I think the Tennessee fan base loves him. For a guy that's not been on the field and, like you said, not made those big plays, I think the fan base has got behind him. Well, I want this fan base to get behind Spyre Sports Group because that's the future. And I want to, when sometimes the world we live in, it's what, let me get this. There we go. I like that better. What can you do for me? I feel like that's what, when you talk about Spyre Sports Group and we try to sell, hey, join the volunteer club. The first question is, well, in this day and age, what's in it for me? I don't care about Tennessee. I like Tennessee football, but I'm not necessarily ready to commit and give all this money. So what do I get out of it? And again, we've got the link pinned at the top. You guys can get involved in the NIL game. Also, I see some of you guys, some of the moderators in the chat are spamming the link, how you can get involved as well. But if you go to the website, you click on join the volunteer club, and then it pops up, kind of what you're going to get out of this. But this right here is the frustrating part. And, I think you were listening in the back when I was talking about it. Active memberships, 2,320. I am a regular dude. My selling point on this channel is we're not experts. We're not insiders. We're not media. Like I am no different than all the people watching in the chat. I'm a regular Tennessee fan that created this platform and started talking Tennessee football, and it blew up because I think people truly enjoy that for the fans, by the fans mentality. But the thing is, this fan base is so strong, and you guys just hit. I opened the show. All 50 states are represented now in the volunteer club. 20,000 subscribers on the Talkin VAWLS network, 2,320 active memberships. for the volunteer club. We have to do better. But I truly think that what you guys are up against is so many people don't even know what this is. So when they go to the link, when they go to Spyre Sports Group and they click on join the volunteer club, dumb it down for us. What is this about? What do the athletes get? What do you get? Because you said, you talked to earlier about, hey, you're trying to make a living too. All the guys you work with, you're trying to support your families. So you're balancing how much you get, how much the athlete gets, and just kind of dumb this thing down for us.
Yeah. So, we're getting better at it as we go. Again, we're not experts, but here we are, out front, I guess you could call it. So, if you want to support Spyre Sports, you do that in one of two ways, primarily, really three ways: through the volunteer club, through Volunteer Legacy, and then as a business or a corporate sponsor, right? And that would flow technically through Volunteer Club. But, Volunteer Club is a for-profit LLC. Volunteer Legacy is a nonprofit, which doesn't mean you don't seek to not make a profit, right? It's just how you spend those dollars is managed differently. And so, for Volunteer Club, you can join as little as $5 a month. I think people are aware of that. Up to $500 a month is our highest membership level. So that was really, the intention. We were intentional about, Neyland Stadium's 100,000 people, and not all of those people in that stadium have their names on buildings, right? And so all of those people we felt like could pay $5 a month to be part of this. And if you take it out, $10,000 people giving $25 a month, that's $3 million a year, right? We get to something like that, we can win at a high level with volume, and that's what Tennessee has done since Neyland, designed that stadium over there, and knew that if we built the biggest stadium, we could get anybody to come, and we could pay to get them here, and we could generate money off of, not TV at that time, but just gate receipts, ticket sales. And that led to where we are today. So we're kind of standing on the shoulders of giants in that sense. But Volunteer Club, as little as $5 a month, right? And you're getting member benefits. You're going to get, access to our newsletter, our conversations. There you go. Everything's spelled out there. The $25 membership is probably where, 60% or more of our memberships come in at that level or above. So a lot of people are in that level. Most of those are at that $25 level. You get a t-shirt, you get swag. I got some of it behind me here, some of the stuff that we design in house, and we can, we try to be a little bit of a barstool element, fun, keep it light.
You guys have great merch. I sell merch too. I see your merch and I'm like, oh, you guys,
we want to do more, we're always pushing that envelope. We're always trying to keep it.
I advertise the goat shirt all the time. It is one of the best Tennessee shirts of all time. Just a goat head and a 16 jersey. That's the type of merch that I need to create and can't. So you guys have great merch.
Yeah, one of our guys here, Will Crockett, had a few t-shirt designs that he got that have done some good for us. So I know he's proud of that one, and the Davy Crockett shirt in particular. But, Vol Club, so, and then we're also, throughout the year, and we're learning as we go, we're treating that as a subscription, anything like, I think, if you think about like Amazon Prime or Netflix or those things, whatever, everybody's got their things that they're addicted to, Spotify, especially Amazon, they're always adding value, so that the cost of that subscription is such that you think, man, I'm getting way more value than what I'm paying, so this is a no-brainer, right? And we want to have that, whether it's through gear, whether it's through autographs, or whether it's through in-person events, and our football tailgates were big in the fall, basketball watch parties here as we're going now, and then baseball, our porch and different hosting opportunities. So being able to build a community around events and different access is important, and you get that as a Vol Club member. And then Volunteer Legacy is more of our major giving. If someone's interested in, having a tax deductible option, at a higher level, probably $5,000 to $10,000 or more, for the year, and doing more high end experiences. And that's probably where the Tennessee experience for myself, for major gifts, kind of putting that spin on it and building relationships and talking to people. So, I don't want people to get discouraged by the fact that we only have 2,300 members in the Vol Club. We also have members that are supporting us at a very, very high level on the Volunteer Legacy and even in Volunteer Club, but the path to sustainability is what you're getting at. That's 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 members in the Vol Club, and that's part of our thought process of like, whether NIL is here to stay, which we think it is, but it's going to evolve over time. So, the volunteer club is something that can exist with or without NIL, and it can always be about fan experience and creating a club that's exclusive of Tennessee, but it's centered around Tennessee. We've been shocked by the number of people that come in from out of town for home games and don't have a place, to land when they get in town. And so just trying to, create that for them. And then also on the road, especially on the road, people don't always have access to venues and things like that. So if we can pop one up and offer it to members, we're going to keep doing that.
Yeah, I think you guys do a good job with that. I know we've got several people in our chat that are members of the volunteer club. Brad, that was in here earlier, I don't know if he's still here. I know he's one. And they immediately tweet out, like when they sign up and you guys send them that package right out of the gate. I've seen Hendon Hooker autographs, Cedric Tillman autographs, Jalen Hyatt autographs. So much fun stuff. And that's the point, is they get something out of it. I've seen some of them attend the tailgate parties, all the stuff that you guys do. Is amazing. We're going to get into some fun questions here. Nugs for 5. Come on, Nugs. What are you trying to do? What does a 20 or 30-minute interview go for, a roundabout range for, say, I don't know, a certain YouTube channel? Nugs, I won't take that up with Brandon. I'll take that up with James. He said he was going to do it. I'll put James on blast. He's like, yeah, Boogie, I'll get you some players. And then I see the Vol Club Confidential rolling out for VolQuest and the red carpet and Austin Price looking like a superstar. And I'm like, I'm just a dork in my basement, man. I'll keep grinding, building my platform until James cannot tell me no. That's my goal. It's on me. I'll create the content. Don't throw that question at Brandon. I want to get into some stuff, though. We talked a little bit off air about it. And it's just an interesting topic for me, is enticement. That's a hot buzzword, right? When you talk about recruiting, and I said this at the top of the show, anytime you're talking about recruiting a high school kid, and the big ones that pop out to me, because I really started pushing hard on covering recruiting probably the last 18 months or so. Carnell Tate, Francis Mauigoa. Carnell goes to Ohio State. Francis Mauigoa goes to Miami. Immediately this fan base says, he got a bigger deal. Got a bigger deal at Ohio State. Got a bigger deal at Miami. Whether that's accurate or not, it's message board, it's internet, it's Facebook. Social media, the internet is a great thing, and it's a horrible thing at the same time. But, you got these rumors, these numbers. How do you guys, as an NIL collective, avoid enticement, but also still utilize NIL to recruit a 5-star prospect like Francis Mauigoa?
First of all, the word is inducement, so I just want to clarify. That's the big, so that's all right.
Hey, I'm an idiot in my basement. Come on, let me have one. I
don't know much, but we got 2 rules here. We can't induce and we can't pay for play, right? So we can't incentivize a guy and say, hey, Jalen Hyatt, go score 5 touchdowns against Alabama, and we got $100,000.
Can you tell me what enticement means? Can anybody tell me what that means? What does that word mean? Is that a word?
Like you with that glass in your hand? It's pretty enticing. Like, I want to come over and hang out with you.
Oh, see, well, that's what I'm like. Can you?
I think they're about the same word, but technically it's inducement. But
I guess in my mind, I'm thinking I'm going to entice Carnell Tate to come to Tennessee by saying, here's a $1.5 million contract. Do you want it or not?
We're saying what I mean? The same thing. Yeah, inducement. Okay. Inducement is the word that the NCAA.
So see, I'm not wrong, Brandon.
You're not wrong. Just setting it up for the future here. So so the pay for play is easy. The inducement part is basically like, you can't tell somebody whether they're a prospective student athlete or a transfer portal athlete, like, hey, you come to Tennessee and I got $100,000 for you. You can't do that. And so, I think that, you mentioned like somebody like Carnell Tate, that's interesting because, everything we do, and I want to put this in perspective, like, NIL is obviously important and we're biased and we think that it's going to be ever so more important as we move on, but athletes are making decisions like they've always made decisions, right? It's based on, city. It's based on scheme. What's that?
I want these guys to listen to this. Please listen to this. I preach this. It's still a relationship business. It's still about schemes. It's still about player development and getting to the league. It's not always just about NIL. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Brandon.
it's
Go
all,
ahead.
and I understand what I'm saying. Like, I don't mean to. I'm not trying to, like, obviously belittle what we do, because
it's a combination.
It's a big part, right? And so, now if there's a 20-point checklist for a college athlete, now there's 21 points, and that 21st point is a salary, right? And so, they don't necessarily know that, when they come, but and every athlete's going to value that differently. I'd say they're obviously it's in their top 5. What do they think they can, especially what we're at Tennessee, right? We're on the biggest stage. And so how can I maximize my name, image, likeness, and be compensated while I'm in college? And you have to think, I mean, for one athlete, they might be thinking the long play of NFL, and they're really confident. I mean, most of these guys are confident they're going to the NFL. Truth is 3% of them are going, and so balancing, the long play of the NFL versus, what I can do. Some guys, they're not going to the NFL, and so maximizing what they can do in college, and I think that, as we look at it, there was a lot of hype around many players, and we look at, Carnell Tate's a name, he ended up at, I guess we're out again.
Ohio State.
Yeah, Ohio State. I'm joking, but
that got me a lot of coverage on this channel. I was in his commitment video.
Yeah. But we get a guy like Nathan Leacock ends up here because of the good work we've done in NIL, and he saw that firsthand. When he was on visits, and the coaches are doing the recruiting, right? And we're just here to offer packages to current athletes and make sure that guys understand, when they're looking at Tennessee, that we're serious about NIL. That's never changed. I mean, I think James said that a year ago when he was here, and we're pretty focused on that. And so, the rankings come out, and the guys is at a number, and you're looking at that. And so once they get here, we start talking about what we think their marketability can be, and that's kind of the magic sauce there, I guess, once they arrive.
So yeah, what is that? What you're saying once they are enrolled? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah, once they're obviously like signed and here, and we can have a conversation, and we understand. The cool thing now is like that we've got some history. Like we've done some things with receivers and quarterbacks and running backs, and we guys with different social media followings. And so we think, okay, based on the donor dollars we have, the membership dollars we have, the business relationships we have, we think that your value could be this. And so we're making a bet on ourselves, really, is the big risk that we're taking, is like, we think, you're worth this, and we hash that out, once they're here, and then it's on us to to earn it, and we have, they have to, that's the part about pay for play. I mean, they have to do work, right? And they have to show up, whether it's through a for-profit, business, or, doing charitable work, which is, as we're running our charitable organization, the Volunteer Legacy, it's no different than a country music artist, being paid by some entity to do a benefit concert for, a charitable organization. They're compensated for their name, image, likeness. They put on a concert, and the proceeds go to benefit that charitable organization. That's kind of how we, in layman's terms, that's how we run that setup.
I asked we've got a Facebook group, and I asked them, I said, you guys got any questions tonight for Spyre Sports Group? Let me have them. I will pick a couple, and then the rest of you guys dropping super chats. We'll get to your questions here coming up in just a second. One of the questions that came through was from Corey Culbertson. And I think it's an interesting question because, again, it kind of goes along with the same mindset of what we're talking about. How early do you get involved with a high school recruit? So we're talking about a kid, whether he's a junior, a senior, whatever the case may be, the coaching staff, and we talked about that, the communication between you and the coaching staff earlier. It's perfectly legal for you to talk to Josh Heupel. How early do you get involved in that process? And what does that process look like? Because, when James was on, I don't know if it was last year. I can't remember when James was on, last year, year before, whenever it was, he said at that time it was, here is what we've given Hendon Hooker. Here's what we've given Cedric Tillman, right? A proven wide receiver in this system. This is what you could potentially earn. How early do you get involved with high school kids? Because the thing I see on the message boards is get them on campus, sit them down with Spyre Sports Group, we'll lock it up, right? That's what you hear people say. How early do you guys get involved, and what does that process look like?
Yeah, that's not how it goes. I mean, necessarily, it's the coaches are recruiting, right? And they have a job to do, and obviously winning 11 games is a huge part of that. And so, I think Tennessee, became at the time the 27th or the 32nd state. I mean, we're up to probably 35 states or more where NIL is legal in high school, right? And so we're still, everybody's figuring out what that looks like. I think well-resourced high schools are going to have their own versions of collectives, right? And they're going to, continue to recruit athletes or to, attract athletes based on the NIL that they're doing at their school, right? And so that's for the interest of that school. And then, college, colleges are going to be interested in that for sake of, you've got a recruiting process that's going on with an athlete, and making sure that they're aware of how serious Tennessee is about NIL, or, in our case, the states where that's legal, to have that conversation on a higher level. But, I can't understate, the fact that, somebody like everybody's like talking about like Nico, right? Like, so like Nico's here, he's enrolled, and, we have an agreement with Nico, and so that's something that we got taken care of. I don't know what day are we in. February? Is it March yet? What are we doing? It's February. So, we're proud of, the recruitment process that went on, by the coaching staff. Right. And then we come in when the time's right and button that up and take care of it. So, I think that, we talk about, you mentioned the Rashada thing earlier, and so that, we use that as a lesson for us, while it's easy to want to throw stones at our rival school and things like that, we're watching that and making sure, how can we better communicate with Tennessee so that we avoid a situation like that potentially, right? And there's so many moving parts, and a lot of which we don't know and we'll never know. But instead of us, the reaction is to want to laugh and point fingers and to throw stones, but we look at it here very seriously, and make sure that we stay ahead of situations like that.
I want to hit this real quick. Dester Wilson in the chat says, how do you join the Vol Club? Well, I'm glad you asked, because there is a link pinned at the top of the chat. The top of the live chat is also in the description below. You click that link, it takes you directly to their website to join the volunteer club. There's several tiers set up. We talked about it a little bit earlier. You get a little bit more depending on how much you give. So you're always going to get something. So you can go check that out. Click that link. You want to help me with this name? Brandon? Fuba Nuba becomes a member of the channel at the Watch Party Enthusiast tier. That is not cheap. That is our highest tier to become a member of the channel. We do a watch party once a month, whether we're watching basketball, baseball, football, an old game, something. We do those once a month. You guys have access not to just watch, but to come on the show with us, hang out. Always a good time. So thank you, Fuba Nuba. We appreciate you joining the channel. Evan counts for 10. Love sending this Georgia money to Tennessee. Well, I appreciate that super chat, Evan. And I mean, since you gave the $10 of Georgia money, I feel like it's only right. It's only right that I play this clip. I don't believe there are good people that pull for Georgia. I think they're all terrible, ugly, disgusting human beings. I think it's just that no, there are no good Georgia fans, Eric. There are none. I figured you deserve that, Evan. It's so funny. I was on Eric's show when that's where that clip came from, he didn't know what to do. You know, he's professional media. I'm a psychopath sitting in my basement. I can say whatever I want, whenever I want. I can pour a big glass of Buffalo Trace to come hang out. That's what I do. Eric's got to be a little bit more professional. He didn't know how to respond. All right, we got a couple more super chats asking direct questions. So let's blaze through these few super chats real quick, and then we'll wrap up and get you out of here. Angry Titan for 5 says, you guys need to do like Disney World, become a donating member, skip the lines for parking, and get into the stadium. Let's run Neyland Stadium like Disneyland, Angry Titan says.
We talk about Disney and Chick-fil-A a lot around here in terms of the customer experience, and you're speaking to my heart right there. We're working on figuring stuff like that out. You know, one of the things we're working on is like a asset trade bank where, you know, this sounds simple, but, you know, Tennessee doesn't really have anything like this, but, you know, being able to have where people, if you're not selling your tickets and you're about to throw them away, let us use them and give value to other members, you know, valet service, you know, different access, I mean, that right there is, I like that, Angry Titan. We've talked about that a lot. It's just the logistics of it have been very complicated. And, you know, when you say Disney, you know, one of the things they do is like, they beat you to the point of you getting upset about something. So like if you're in a line for a ride at Disney and the ride breaks down, you know, it's like they come let you know. I don't know if y'all have experienced that, but like they come let you know before you get pissed off, you know, and like not Tennessee, but just college athletics. Like you go to the Masters. If anybody's been to the Masters, and I was fortunate to go to a practice round one time, and you watch the operation of how that works and how you never wait in line for a concession stand, and you don't wait in line to use the restroom because they've got they're well resourced, obviously, but you don't miss the action, you know. So how can we be a part of that fan experience and creating a unique experience? That's going to be defined over time, but man, we're all over that, and we would appreciate more input and insight like that, because again, we're not the experts. We have these ideas, but if you can help us pull that off, man, we'd love to hear from you.
A couple more super chats real quick, and then got one last question we're going to wrap you up with. But John London for 5, how does having players in the pro sports help hurt with what you guys are trying to do with NIL? Does that really affect you? I would say that's more a Josh Heupel impact than NIL.
How do you take that? I don't understand.
I read the question as, how does having players in pro sports help hurt with what you're doing with NIL? I read it as, how does it help hurt with recruiting? I think, you know, it's like I preach all the time. Success is one of the top tier things for how you build recruiting, right? You go win 11 games, you go win an Orange Bowl, all of a sudden you've got the number 1 ranked tight end in the country wanting to get on campus. You got the number 1 ranked running back in the country wanting to get on campus. You got top tier players. You got Ron Wingo wanting to visit. I think that's maybe more of a, and look, it's like we said earlier.
I'll answer that a different way, you know, because I think that, you know, the teams that, let's take away this last year for Tennessee where we won 11 games, but you know, before that we've been roaming through the desert for 15 years, right? In terms of the stature that we want to be at. And schools like Alabama and Georgia, you know, they've had recent success, right? And so I would venture to say, and I think we know this, like, you know, their NIL situation doesn't have to be as lucrative as ours. You know, we're kind of playing catch up, right? And so to their point, they can sell, look at the track to NFL, you know, because we've had all this success for, you know, 10 years, 15 years, 5 years, whatever it is. Tennessee has obviously had that over the course of a century, you know, but recently we haven't. And so that gets back to the root of, you know, the opportunity for us to use NIL as a catalyst to get us right back to that is important. And so I think that, you know, eventually, you know, that'll help maybe when we get to our valuation and what we're spending and what we have to raise. You know, it may level off at some point because we can point to other things.
One last super chat here from Crawdad Watson for 5. Thank you for super chat. How will Collective stay relevant within the next few years with bigger money being thrown towards players from large companies?
That's good. I mean, you know, looking at that question, I don't know that large companies are throwing a ton of money at a lot of players, right? That's something we found out early on, is that, you know, it's very few players that have national recognition that can bring about, 6 and 7 figure type deals. I think, when this all started, Nick Saban got on and talked about his quarterback making $1 million back in July of 2021. And so everybody kind of freaked out, like, oh my gosh, like, what are we going to do? You think about the pros, the Steph Currys and the LeBrons, like there's not a lot of those guys, right, that are like on that level. And so college, we found that out real quick. There's national deals, there's regional deals, and there's local deals, right? And so it's why I probably have a job here, because we had to fundraise from individuals and donors to kind of fuel the fire that we're doing. And then over time, as the appetite for NIL continues to improve, which we saw, firsthand with Hendon and Jalen Hyatt, particularly this year when they did what they did, the deals started to show up for those players, because companies want to be associated with successful players, but it's not more than 10 players. It's probably not more than 5 players that can command a national presence. And really at any given school, I mean, you're lucky if you've got one really that has a large company, to the point of that question, has a large company throwing, a lot of dollars at one player. It's a big risk for companies, right? And there's not a long lifespan with a college athlete. It's 3 to 4 years at best. And, you need a guy to technically like kind of blow up as a freshman to give you just that 3-year runway.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a big time player. It's definitely going to be 3 years, right? And
Right.
you look at Nico coming in, as hot of a commodity as he is, gonna be sitting on the bench year one. We hope as Tennessee fans, I say all the time, if Joe gets benched, it's because Joe's not playing well. So yeah, it's a limited window there. One last question, then we're gonna wrap you up and get you out of here. Brad Burnett in the Facebook group, also a member of the volunteer club, maybe one of the first that joined from this channel back when we had James on. Says, not really a question. I would just like to hear more about the Volunteer Legacy Program. Now, that's the charity, right, where the players actually get to work with kids more. I read an article saying they kind of flock to that a little bit more than they do working with companies and corporate gurus.
Yeah, and I think over time they'll probably flock to that. We talk about, the whole mission of the Volunteer Legacy is for Tennessee athletes to partner with charitable organizations to make an impact across the state of Tennessee, right? And there's a lot of youth organizations, a lot of healthcare. We just did an event tonight where we had Emerald Youth Foundation and East Tennessee Children's, kind of our premier partners that we've already done a lot of work with, and we look forward to doing a lot more with them. And then we use that to kind of spearhead, we had 20 other organizations in the room, where we're really giving the athletes a choice in how they mobilize their, of us, dragging them to a business and having them promote something that they really don't care about. We're just telling them to do it. We can, it's important to note that we can attract tax deductible dollars through Volunteer Legacy. We can compensate, via the charity or through the athlete, through a software that we're using to pay the athlete. And they can then actually kind of change the dialogue on NIL. It's, everybody's talking about Lamborghinis and, all this stuff. And it's like, that's not what it's about for 99% of the athletes. And so using that, NIL to empower the athletes to do good work in Knoxville and across the state of Tennessee. That's what that's all about. And that's what, our event tonight was about. It was very successful. And I think over time, the athletes, obviously they're going to impact the people across the state of Tennessee, but especially when you put them in situations when they're around youth, you see the youth actually impacting our athletes, so that's a pretty cool, full circle kind of situation that happens with all this. And we're really excited about it.
Awesome. Good stuff, man. I appreciate you coming on. Hopefully this was, I enjoyed the conversation. Hopefully it was eye-opening for some of the listeners. There's going to be some rewatches coming in. So if you're watching this on the replay, guys, go click that link in the description. Let's grow that number. Let's join it. Like, look at all the $5 super chats. And, you know, we talk about balancing for Danny White. I'm balancing here for the Talkin VAWLS Network. The super chats pay my bills. The memberships pay my bills. We also got to balance it and give a little bit to Spyre Sports Group. And let's continue to support Tennessee athletics. Brandon, I appreciate your time, man. It's been a fun chat. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
All right, man. Appreciate you, Boogie.
All right, we're going to wrap this thing up. He's Brandon. My name is Boogie Bentley. This is the Talkin VAWLS Network. Go. See, I say it slow because I'm trying to find my outro. Big orange.
That we call home, and it's night and I'm alone and